Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to a new video. In this video I'm gonna show my first game from my most recent tournament in Graz in Austria. I played an open tournament, 9 rounds, and I will just show all the games. We will start with round number 1 where I played against a very young Polish player with a rating of about 2100, and I had a black pieces and it was not an easy start. So let's dive into the game. He started with c4, I played e6 and d5, grabbing the center, knight f6. Nowadays people often play knight to c3, but he chose a slightly different move order, which was b3. This move kind of has the advantage for white that he could already take with the pawn, which leads to some kind of unique pawn structures. But there is also a drawback to this move order starting with b3, because white is kind of weakening this c3 square, and I can take the center because he cannot that easily take and play d4 and try to play against the isolated pawn, because the c3 square and also this diagonal will be weak, and if he's too slow I might sometimes even be able to push d4. However, white can play d4, and that's actually what he did. And yeah, at first I was thinking I'm quite comfortably equal here, but then he kind of tricked me. So I took on d4. No, that's not how it went. He played bishop b2 first and only then took, and then played d4. Sorry for this. And then I took. He needs to take with the knight, because otherwise here white is not really having anything, because he's also having an isolated pawn and he's having the worst pieces. I have quite easy development here, and black should already be better here. So taking with the knight, and now I considered a few options. For example, knight e4, planning bishop b4, but there might be a3, and it's leading nowhere, I think. So that's why I chose to start with bishop b4 check. He basically needs to go bishop c3, because something like this really ends very terribly for white, because I just attacked the pinned knight again and again, and yeah, he won't be able to defend well here. For example, if something like this, I can take it all and then already consider some captures on a2, winning a pawn. Yeah, which is very, very comfortable, and black is probably much better. So bishop c3, even though it looks a bit odd, it's not that easy here. And I considered a lot of stuff, but I finally did not find the right move. My move was queen to a5, which would equalize if it was not for queen d2, which he actually played, and I at first thought was not even possible at all, because I thought it's losing due to knight e4. However, once it was on the board, I realized what's really going on after knight to e4, and you can think about it. Pause the video if you like, and evaluate the position after knight e4. How is white defending? Does white have a move, and which one is it? So we will continue with the solution, which is in fact white is winning after this, because he has knight takes c6, and all the forcing lines, they are just turning out horrible for black. Black is usually a piece down here. Also in this, he's just a piece down, and yeah, black would be losing. So yeah, I cannot do this, and I need to take some actions, because otherwise he will take here. And I'm forced to trade a lot of stuff. So I decided to take on c3 and then just castle bishop e2. But I was not happy with the outcome of the opening, because I have the isolated pawn, and I think white is a bit better, even though it should be still kind of okay for black. White also has some weaknesses here. Knight is unstable, and I have some good development. I only have one weakness, and this should be okay. However, it was tough to decide here what to do. And after some thought, I chose to play bishop g4. I also considered this one here, but I just discarded it because of b4. And now I'm in trouble because the knight is no longer pinned, and maybe I'm just losing a pawn on either d5 or e4. So I tried to activate my last piece, bishop g4. He now went for some trades, and still in this pawn structure I would say white is a bit more comfortable because I have the hanging pawns, he can attack them. But I still had some hope to equalize. Sometimes I can use my a pawn to create a weakness as well. And yeah, it's maybe nothing that special. Also, it's a question how to continue for white. If castles, it's not working tactically because of takes and he drops a piece, for example like this. So maybe he should take himself, but then I might have some ideas creating some weakness against the king. For example, castles, queen c7 might be a move. Now he needs to create some weaknesses, and then I can try to target some squares in one or another way. And black is in the game, even though, yeah, I would still probably prefer white at this point. However, he played, yeah, an interesting move, but I didn't think it's critical, and it's indeed not. Knight e4, trying to organize some trades, saying that in the end game those pawns will be weak, but he's losing a lot of time with this, and I just traded. I kept my bishop because I thought I want to play for win maybe, and I think black is quite comfortable here because I'm faster in the development, I can protect this guy, and I can also try to implement this plan, trying to create a weakness on b3, or sometimes even just go c5 and have a strong center, which is not so easy to attack. So let's see what happened. Rook c1, rook c8, rook to c7, protecting it all, and now he played a bit too artificial, rerouting this knight, but this is very slow, and I got a comfortable game after rook b8, knight coming here. There are some threats like knight b5 in the air, but I just played c5. Now there's no knight b5 due to rook c6, blundering the bishop, so he needed to retreat the bishop. And now, if you want, take your time again to make a decision here. It's quite a critical moment for the future, how to proceed here. And we will discuss a few options which I consider during the game, and then continue with the solution. In the game I actually had been considering d4, which he cannot take because this would blunder the piece, but I kind of discarded it because of knight d1, and I didn't see the point, because if I take, I cannot push c4, and if I play something like this, I'm just playing to equalize, and maybe I'm not even equalizing in something like this because I have the worse pawn structure. So might be playable, but a bit more comfortable for white, so I didn't like to go for it. Also some moves like a5, I didn't see the big point because maybe the pawn is weaker on a5 than on a7. But then I found another option, which was c4. This is basically forcing him to take, because otherwise I win a pawn. But then my rooks, especially the one on the b file, is very active, maybe able to invade on b2 if he castles short, or yeah, just the c pawn. It might also be an asset because yeah, it's well protected, it's not easy to attack, the knight can not really go to any stable places, and he really needs to be careful about something like rook to the second rank. So from here my position felt quite comfortable, but it's still around equal, and he played quite well during the next moves. e4, g5, taking the f4 square, not allowing him to expand that easily, and now I expected something like castle, after which I could improve my king or improve the rooks. Both is probably okay. Could also think about rerouting the knight, but need to be a bit careful about knight d5 jumps. There are many plans and it's still complex, but my opponent chose to keep the king in the center. after rook c2 and king d2, which is also reasonable because we have already entered an endgame and the king is quite fine on e3. So now I played rook b6, just improving a little bit, having ideas, targeting the a pawn. Yeah, maybe going here, just improving a little bit. He played f3, I played knight d7, considering some setups like knight e5 and pawn to f6. Yeah, but also maybe f5. After king e3, I actually played f5 and takes, and rook d2. This was kind of a critical moment, so if you really want to use it as a training, take your time and try to think about your continuation here. I think it's very critical and I spend a lot of time here. Try to find a plan, try to see your options, and we will continue with the solution. Solution is rook to e6 and knight e5. That's what you really want to play because you want to put a piece there. And it's only possible to put a piece there when you start with the check, because there's always this threat of knight e5 in the air, so you cannot start with knight e5. But the critical question for me was, how do I react after knight b5? Because this knight is attacking my rook and then it's coming here attacking those two guys. So I was spending quite a lot of time here thinking about, is this actually working for black or is it just horrible? But I came to the conclusion that it's okay, although it might be just drawish. Something like this was my intention, and after takes, he can attack my c4, but I will always have some counterplay against the a2, and it's equal. And I thought that's what he really needs to do to be equal, but he didn't find this, and he played something which is inferior and gave me some chances to be better in the game. He played h4, I played g4, rook c1. Now I already had some comfortable options. I took first, and then I could already consider something like this, but still, he's very close to equality, putting the knight to e4 and then targeting the d3 pawn, which is quite weak, and this would just lead to a draw. So I decided not to jump there immediately, keeping options, maybe also putting the bishop there and going with the knight afterwards. So I decided to be flexible, rook f7, having some ideas of bishop d3, and once the bishop is distracted, taking on f3. He activated his rook, king h6, rook d4. This was kind of okay. I decided to go there anyway. Now there might be a threat to the f3 pawn, but he just moved the bishop away. I played knight g6, trying to reroute some stuff, maybe jumping here at some point, maybe also bringing rooks to the f-file. Not so clear what's coming next. And I think black is having some pressure, but not a lot. But he decided to go for something very forcing here. Maybe not spotting my response, but still it's equal. But you can take your time again and think, how should black continue here in this position? Because if we do it in a bad way, then we might even end up a pawn down. For example, if we would just draw back the rook, takes, and king e3, we are in danger of losing this pawn here. So take your time, see your options, and we will continue with the solution. I think what I did in the game was practical. I could take here, because after bishop e6, I take here, and the king needs to go to the e-file, after which I will pick up the bishop. Okay, black is 2 pawns up. This pawn will drop, of course, but black has an endgame pawn up, and I was having some hopes to win the game, although I was guessing that it might be holdable. In the game I thought he should play this now, and then only then take the pawn, because kind of my king and knight, they are quite stuck and it's not easy to organize them. Also knight e4 is on the way, and it might just force yeah, some repetition. Let me show you. If I do nothing, then something like this check, check. This was something I was fearing, that it's just a forced draw, even though I'm pawn up here. After this, maybe there is no forced draw here, but I'm still in the pin and it feels a bit annoying. So that was what I was afraid of, but he took immediately, and I just retreated my knight, saying, okay, now I have this extra pawn, there is no pin, and I can play on like forever. And I actually got my chances to win the game, but I missed them. So knight e5 was played, rook g2. Now I played a horrible move, rook d6. The rook would just have been much better here, targeting this pawn and the knight. My threat is of course to take, so he cannot protect because takes, takes, and check. So he would need to play rook h2 first. And then I have some pressure. The rook is very fine, and I will start pushing. However, I decided to play this. Of course, he again should not fall for this one because takes, and now rook h2 is too late due to rook h5, and he cannot take because of knight f4. But he of course found rook h2. I go here, he goes there, and now I had some trouble pushing my h-pawn. It was not easy to start, and I lost a lot of time. However, I got a second chance after some maneuvering around. I was finally able to push, and here, yeah, I had many chances, which I will not discuss. If you want, you can check it out yourself. But my move rook h7 was not that great because he could return with the knight and finally make a draw. Yes, here in this situation my last chance was to play rook d7, because then the knight cannot really return to the king side and black is a lot better, probably winning. But I decided to play this, kind of missing his defensive idea. At this point I was actually thinking that I'm winning because he went so passive, and my knight and the pawn, they are so stable, but he found a quite nice drawing resource, knight g1. Still I thought it's just winning, I'm coming with the king. But what I missed was that even here he can give the knight because he has this maneuver of a5 and rook to b2, coming rook b7, trading off my last pawn, and if I take, it's of course a draw. I decided to play on a little bit, but basically it's just a draw. He even sacked the rook to enter a drawish pawn and rook ending. And yeah, here there is just nothing black can try. White is just going back and forth like this, but yeah, actually there are many drawing ways here. So that was the game. Some winning chances with black, but finally he managed to hold. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.